Good?
Advantage final, Illinois on game over Yale. Here we go. Teams ready?
Yes.
Here's toss-up one. In this place, one character is shown a griffin pulling a chariot, which is attacked by an eagle and sprouts.
This is like in, right before Purgatory. No, right before Purgatory. It's right, yeah, Purgatory.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
This is like a rules question.
Yeah.
I'll look at the rules. Give them a bonus, move on, I'll change it.
The Kimball Art Museum contains this artist, the card sharps, and the of clubs, and a man with a overly open mouth plays the type of instrument in his the hurdy-gurdy player for 10 points each. Identify this French artist greatly influenced by Caravaggio, best known for caricature works like The Newborn Christ.
Delator.
This figure is being treated by Saint Irene, who holds a large torch in the George Delator painting. This saint is bound to a tree and has several arrows sticking into him in an El Greco painting.
I guess so. St. Sebastian.
Like George Delator, this neoclassical artist painted a version of The Dream of St. Joseph. Johann Winkelmann lauded his Parnassus fresco for the Villa Albani, and this man painted the Apotheosis of Hercules for a palace in Madrid. Anton Raphael names, 20 points on the bonus. Toss-up 2. Denard's solution is a mixture of polymers that saturate non-specific binding sites in this method. Herring or salmon sperm is used as a blocking agent in this procedure. Large fragments are usually depurinated with hydrochloric acid prior to transfer. In this method, the result of agarose gel electrophoresis is transferred to a nylon or nitrocellulose sheet where it is hybridized with a fluorophore tag or radio-labeled probe made of single-stranded DNA or RNA. The membrane is washed with a Western blot? Incorrect, -5, leaving the hybridized target to be detected. This technique is the basis for RFLP analysis and led to the development of a family of similar procedures. For 10 points, this technique named for a British biologist that detects a specific DNA sequence in a sample. So, that's right. Your bonus. This essay praises Borges for making art out of felt ultimacies of the 20th century for 10 points each. Name this 1967 essay published in The Atlantic, which argues that the narrative forms of the novel have been used up. Its author later responded to it in an essay praising postmodern replenishment. Answer.
Postmodern novel.
The Literature of Exhaustion was written by this American author whose sprawling postmodern novels include The Sotley Factor and Giles Go
Garth.
Critics often emphasize the importance of this term coined by Julian Kristeva when discussing postmodern literature. It refers to the ways that works of literature borrow ideas from one another.
Intertextuality.
That is 20 points.
What's that?
I'll prove it wrong because I didn't think that's the one. Okay.
All right, we're rolling out and confirming.
Okay.
Question 1.
She started the answer, she didn't
Same
finish it.
Purgatory.
Yeah.
She started saying per, and then she went back.
I was going to end up with it.
But I don't know, I can only
That's
tell
where we're
you.
at.
I will accept the neg.
We still haven't decided whether you're wrong or right. You were still
Wait,
when you started talking.
It doesn't matter. I'll accept the neg.
All right, so there any replacement question? Keep going for a bit. We'll figure out the score. We'll get that.
Okay, so I should just,
Just keep going as roll.
I'm reading the line. Right, so I just read you guys need to work on it. So I'm going to read this next toss-up.
Just to them.
We're going to get that like at the half or something, so everything as normal.
This is a live toss-up. This is a live toss-up.
Toss-up 3.
Here we
The
go.
score is currently 25 to -5.
We'll get there. Play the game.
Here's the next question. Live. 2 answers required. In Albanian lore, one of these 2 creatures evolves into the bola, which only opens its eyes once a year and devours any man it sees at that time. The other of these creatures gained its strength to the hero Shkiptar. In Sumerian myth, Utu tells the first of these creatures to hide in a bull's court to trap the second of these creatures, who is freed by Atana. In Hindu myth, immortal beings who resemble one of these 2 animals are the children of Kadru. Their enemy, who resembles the other one of these 2 animals, is the son of snakes and birds. I guess I'll prompt you. Snakes and eagles? Yes.
Nice.
Here is your bonus. Members expelled from this meeting went on to found the Saint Imier Congress for 10 points each. Made a series of meetings from 1866 to 1872, which sought to unify the left-wing radicals of Europe, but instead led to a break between Marx and Bakunin.
The Goja program?
The First International. The anarchist faction at the First International was given this name and referenced the fact that many members lived in Switzerland. Peter Kropotkin was highly influenced by this group.
Helvetic.
The Jura Federation. The most significant accomplishment of the First International was its endorsement of this proposal that became a major demand by trade unions and socialists in the early 20th century. It was adopted in France by the Popular Front government of Leon Blum and in other countries as a result of a general strike.
The 40-hour work week?
10 points. Toss up 4. According to legend, victims of this event had visions of headless black men who could be seen rowing shimmering boats on the sea at night. Primary sources for this event include the writings of Evagrius Scholasticus, who survived this event while still a child. To combat revenue shortfalls during this event, the neighbors of those killed by it were forced to pay taxes on behalf of the deceased, leading to the collapse of agriculture. The fact that this event began at the port of Pelusium suggests that it was linked to the shipment of grain from Egypt. The best known account of this event comes from the secret history of Procopius, which claims that it killed 5,000 people.
It's like the Byzantine plague.
Yes, I have to prompt you.
The Byzantine plague epidemic during the reign of Justinian I.
I'll take that. Here we go. Your bonus is, according to this theorem, when an integrable Hamiltonian system is subjected to a nonlinear perturbation, the non-resonant invariant orbits from the initial system persist in the phase space of the perturbed system. For 10 points each, need this theorem, which proves, for example, that elliptical orbits in the planar three-body problem are stable.
Kolmogorov, Arnold, Wilson.
That's right. The persistent orbits in the Cam theorem have this property, such that their proper variation in time has at least 2 incommensurable frequencies.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes. Quasi-periodic systems often exhibit this sort of behavior, also typified by the existence of pathological sensitivity to initial conditions and fractal attraction. 30 points. Toss up the 5th. A theorem due to Liouville dictates that on high-dimensional Euclidean spaces, all of these compositions of isometries, homothetic transformations, and spherical inversions, all of these are compositions of isometries, homothetic transformations, and spherical inversions of reflections. In general, an invertible morphism between smooth manifolds is called this if the metric is induced by the inverse morphism is the same as the original metric. The study of geometry using these is called Riemannian geometry. No. In part because a bijective one of these exists between any simply connected proper subsets of the complex plane according to the Riemann mapping theorem. These transformations have the very useful property of mapping harmonic functions on one space to harmonic functions in another. Their Jacobians are proportional to rotation matrices for 10 points, leaving this type of function that agrees with the property of keeping the angles the same.
Conformal mapping?
That's right. Your bonus. Hart Blanton and Philip Tetlock have published prominent critiques of this psychological test for 10 points each. In this test, developed by Greenwald and Banagi, which asks people to quickly pair words of different categories together, it often shows that people prefer white faces. You got association. I'll prompt you, I guess. No, it's the implicit association. Anthony Greenwald was a lab assistant to Elliot Aronson, who's best known for his research on this feeling of discomfort when a person holds 2 or more conflicting ideas at once. The I-18 measures the strength of implicit associations using this variable, which is popular in cognitive psychology studies. It is also measured in Sternberg's memory scanning and mental rotation tasks.
So if you're rotating some of your tasks.
Yeah. No, it's a reaction time.
Oh, yeah.
So 10 points on the bonus. Toss of 6. Henry Carey satirized Ambrose Phillips's ode to this figure in the poem Namby-Pamby. A play attacking this figure includes a scene in which Queen Common Sense is overthrown by Queen Ignorance, and ends with a skit in which 4 men are bribed by Widow. William Arnold frequently defended him against attacks published in The Craftsman. Alexander Pope depicted him as a wizard passing around a cup of forgetfulness in The Dunciad. Many critics believe that Jonathan Swift caricatured this man as Flimnap in the first book of Gulliver's Travels. He was the target of plays such as Pasquin and The Historical Register, and was often compared to Jonathan Wild by his opponents, who included Lord Bolingbroke.
Walpole?
That's right. This book recounts how its author had to keep rewriting his novel Farewell to the Sea from scratch after its manuscripts were destroyed by the government multiple times. In this memoir, which describes how its author was interred in the brutal El Moro prison for being a homosexual. It also describes its author's friendship with Virgilio Pinera and its author's escape to New York when he died of AIDS in 1990.
Yeah. No, it's the memoir.
What do you got?
Nothing.
Before Night Falls. This book by Randy Schultz traces the beginning of the AIDS epidemic in the United
And
States.
the band's played on.
Yes. In Before Night Falls, Phenomenal Irenaeus roundly condemns the communist rule of this country, whose independence was early advocated by Jose Marti.
Cuba.
20 points. Toss-up 7. In the first scene of this opera's third act, one character signals his lover by singing the ballad In Morenland Gefangenen war.
Nice.
Toss-up bonus 7. The diplomats Andrew of Longjumeau and John de Hungarian led missions dedicated to forming this alliance for 10 points each. Name this never finalized alliance between a European nation led by the son of Blanche of Castile and an empire led by the Duke.
Franco-Ottoman.
French-Mongol alliance. Louis IX attempted to coordinate his attacks with the Ilkhan leader Abaka during this crusade, which led to the capture of Tunis in North Africa.
Seventh Crusade.
The Ilkhan sent emissaries to this 1274 church council called by Gregory X, where plans were drawn up for a 10th crusade, where the Mongols would cooperate with the European force led by the Kingdom of Aragon. Gregory's death 2 years later ended planning, and the crusade never happened. You got me.
Basel.
Beyond. No points in the bonus. Toss up 8. This economist wrote an article comparing the poverty caused by poorly chosen institutions and policies to big bills left on the sidewalk. He argued that autocratic governments tend to have higher taxes than democracies. In his 1993 paper, Dictatorship, Democracy, and Development, which begins by explaining his distinction between roving and stationary bandits, this economist blamed distributional coalitions for causing institutional sclerosis and suppressing economic growth in peaceful democracies in his book, The Rise and Decline of Nations. In a book first published in 1965, he showed that public policy is subject to the free rider problem because self-interested individuals need incentives or sanctions to act in order to achieve common interests. 10 points named Sumerian economist, the author of The Logic of Collective Action.
Olson?
Yes. Here's your bonus. Commentary on this body of law is known as the Gemara for 10 points each. It is compiled of Jewish oral law, originally taught by scholars called Tanaim.
Halakha.
No, it's the Mishnah.
Protest.
Okay, noted. Together with the Mishnah and Gemara make up the Talmud, of which there are 2 versions, one from Jerusalem and one from this city, home to the Rav. We have
Hebron.
Babylon. This term is given to Jewish scholars that compiled the Gemara, which consists of their commentary on Jewish oral law.
Okay, do they say the Amoraim? Amoraim.
That's right. So 10 points and 10 under purpose. Toss up 9. This man quelled one revolt against his power by inviting his rivals to negotiate, only to have them imprisoned and strangled in the castle of Senegalia. Later in life, this leader served as commander for King John III of Navarre in Spain, as this man's capture by his former subordinate Giancarlo Baglioni resulted in the loss of his possessions. At the height of his power, this man was assisted by the condottieri Vietolozzo Vitelli and the Orsini brothers.
So like Cesare Borgia?
Your bonus. This equation adds attractive and repulsive terms to the ideal gas law, which are calculated based on the substance's properties at the critical point for 10 points each. Name this equation of state developed by a Dutch physicist.
Van der Waals. Van der Waals.
This equation developed by 2 Shell oil chemists made adjustments to Van der Waals parameters. A modification by Swab makes it more suitable for liquid phase calculations.
There's also one person. They don't make sense to you, actually.
That's right. This quantity symbolized with lowercase omega shows up in the Swab Redlin quant and the Payne-Robinson equations. It is a measure of the non-spherical nature of molecules.
Sure, there. Elliptis.
No, it's the eccentric factor. Toss of 10. Bruce and Sandra Tanner were major critics of this religious movement during the 20th century. Other critics of this religious movement forged the White Salamander letter in an effort to discredit its leader. The Anthon transcript is an important primary source from the founding of this religious movement, whose early leaders preached the doctrine of blood atonement. E.D. Howe viciously attacked this religious movement in a book titled This Movement, Unveiled, in which he linked this movement to the writings of Samuel Spalding. This movement may have been influenced by Ethan Smith, whose book View of the Hebrews argued that the 10 lost tribes of Israel migrated to the New World. For 10 points, named this religious movement based on the Golden Plates.
Mormonism.
Wait, was that toss up 10 or 9?
That was 10.
No, never mind.
This composer mostly stopped writing music after 1926 when he wrote the tone poem Tapiola, by teaching. This Finnish composer, he used the Kalevala as the basis for his Little Tiny Suite, which includes the Swamp Tuonela. This symphony by Sibelius was composed in 1907 and begins with a theme played by the cellos in double phases. It was the first of the symphonies to contain 3 instead of 4 movements and broke sharply from the romanticism of his previous symphonies. 3. Sibelius' only concerto was written for this instrument, which was played by David Oistrakh. It plays a solo in the meditation for Massenet's Albertines. Yes, the 20 points on the bonus. Okay.
Okay, so the most part is not correct, because law is Jewish law in general, it's as I said, moral law, but the actual, we need to read the replacement question.
Okay.
One.
So we need to read them.
Yeah, I mean,
I have.
Did you send it to me?
What replacement question mark?
hey, Matt, is it necessary to read the replacement, or do you just read the rest of that possibly because they're just named? I understand that part of the converting is that.
Only if it's called at the time, it's college or protest, you obviously can't do it.
Well, I understand, but.
Are you saying these? All right.
So your email is.
That's different than dictation.
Yes. I see. Oh, yeah, well, John's getting it. So pending this new question for Illinois, I have 145 and 75. So do you have?
I have 140.
140. Oh,
Did you cap the initial language on the first
Yeah.
one?
maybe not.
I will.
I did. Yeah, that's it. All
Are
right.
you going to E or?
No.
Yes,
Yes, because I.
for calling you. So that's 140 to 75? What is that?
Yep. Sorry.
All right.
Let's read.
Go ahead. Now it's not there. Why is it dark?
There you go. Press power.
Okay, so here's this replacement question that's being read off the clock to Illinois, right? Or is it?
Yes, just for you. All the rules normally apply.
Okay, here we go. Tom LeClaire analyzed this author's novels as examples of complex systems in his study In the Loop. An early novel by this author takes place at Logos College, where football player Gary Harkness becomes obsessed with nuclear war. One of this author's novels declares the future belongs to crowds and begins with a mass wedding of Moonies at Yankee Stadium. This author collected short stories in The Angel Esmeralda and wrote a novel whose prologue, The Triumph of Death, fictionalized Bobby Thompson's shot around the world. This author, Enzo, also wrote novels about the religious author Bill Gray, who dies attempting to find a kidnapped writer in Beirut, and the archivist Nicholas Branch, who attempts to make sense of the law. Yeah. That's correct. Well, we're gonna run out of bonuses too this way.
I already just scored a bonus.
Here we go. Here's your bonus. The one hero Sam Nujoma, the leader of SWAPO for 10 points each. This cause has came to fruition with the creation of a new nation in Africa in 1990.
No, it's like the immense situations.
What do you got?
Independence of Zimbabwe.
Namibian independence. Namibia was previously this German colony and was occupied by South Africa during World War I.
German Southwest Africa.
Correct. German Southwest Africa was home to a genocide against the Herero and Namakwa peoples, while the Herero are Bantu speakers, and the Nama speak a language in this family known for its clicks.
That has clicks in it. Josa?
No, it's Ko or Kolsa.
Okay.
Okay.
You said Josa?
Yeah, that's a different.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. You have received 10 points in that.
Okay, hold on. That adds 20 total to the score, so the real halftime score is 95 to 140.
Yes.
We're all on the same page there. Second half, we'll see this one.
Here's toss-up 11. MDL uses a parity descriptor instead of some of this system's rules. This system is implemented in the SMILE specification with the use of forward slashes, backslashes, and at marks. In this system, anomers are distinguished by alpha and beta. Multiple bonds are considered as the equivalent numbers of single-bonded atoms. This system set forth in the Birkenstock Declaration depends only on absolute configuration and does not account for optical rotation. It also includes the conventions for labeling alkene systems as entity.
Pretty sure it's just con angle 3 log.
You are correct.
Yes.
Here's your bonus. In a recent case in Brazil, this crime was committed against an American tourist who'd been abducted from a public transit van, which is James crime, which also recently made headlines in India.
Rape.
Yes. Talking about rape, proved troublesome for this Republican Senate candidate in Louisiana. He lost in 2012 after calling babies conceived from rape a gift from God.
We're done.
Yes. Earlier this week, a student at this American university sparked outrage when he incorporated a sign saying, "You deserve rape," into his street preaching. He was criticizing campus co-eds for dressing provocatively.
No idea. Sure. Columbia.
It's the University of Arizona, 20 points on the bonus. 12. This instrument shares a solo with an English horn over soft strings in Aaron Copland's Quiet City. 3 of these instruments introduced the song "We Have Built a Stately House" in Brahms' Academic Festival Overture. The second movement of Respighi's Finds a Groan features an offstage solo from this instrument, which uses the high clarino register in J.S. Bach's. Your bonus. Its normal role is to help stabilize neuronal microtubules for 10 points each. Name this protein that, when hyperphosphorylated, aggregates into insoluble tangles in Alzheimer's patients.
Oh,
Tau. Yes. Tau protein is also sometimes seen as part of these inclusions made of aggregated proteins seen in Parkinson's disease, Hicks disease, and their namesake dementia.
I was going to say amyloid plaques. Do you have anything better? Like amyloid plaques.
These are called Lewy bodies.
Oh,
This is the primary protein seen in Lewy bodies. A protein of unknown functions, mutations of the gene that are coded for it, are common in familial forms of Parkinson's.
Okay, but they wanted some sort of like lipid thing that aggregates.
What do you got? It's alpha-synuclein protein. That is 10 points in bonus. Toss-up 14. In sorry? Oh yeah, you're right. 13. Yolanda Fleming was the first woman to serve as governor in this country. It is not in the Middle East, but via the Treaty of Petropolis, this country gained the territory of Accra. 3 different monks, each named John Maria, led rebel forces during this nation's Contestado War. During the mid-20th century, this nation's major cities were redesigned by the urban planner Alfred Agache, and its schools were reformed under the policy of new professionalism. The ANL, a left-wing guerrilla movement, organized this nation's rural poor called the Tenentes.
Brazil.
10. One member of this group, R.J. Miller, eventually became the dean of Stanford's business school, and they were initially led by Tex Thornton, forget what I teach, named this group of 10 U.S. Army Air Corps veterans who were hired in 1948 to revolutionize the Ford Motor Company by applying statistical planning and management control.
Wonder Boys.
Whiz Kids. The most prominent Whiz Kid was this man who became president of Ford in 1960, but left shortly thereafter to be Secretary of Defense for John F. Kennedy.
McNamara.
Yes. During World War II, McNamara worked for Curtis LeMay, who during the Cold War served as the colorful commander of this branch of the U.S. Air Force in charge of nuclear bombers and ICBMs.
Say it.
No, it's Strategic Air Command. So, 10 points on the bonus. Toss-up 14, for real this time. In 2002, Hugh Price established a center for the study of this concept at the University of Sydney. A form of modal logic whose operators reflect various aspects of this phenomenon was developed by Arthur Pryor. Peter van Inwagen called himself a theorist. I'll prompt you, I guess. Okay, I will neg you. This is a prompt, but it's not. What's not correct. So, yeah. Peter van Inwagen called himself a theorist, and he attempted to establish a theory of identity relative to this phenomenon via a thought experiment involving a flatlander version of Descartes. Section 2 of the Critique of Pure Reason, which is dedicated to this concept, calls it nothing else in the form of the internal sense, rather than any determination of outward phenomena, as well as the formal condition a priori of all phenomena whatsoever. A famous argument about this phenomenon divides it into A series and a B series, and argues that although the A series is necessary for it to exist, the existence of the A series leads to its contradiction, and therefore this phenomenon is illusory. It points to identify this phenomenon which does not exist according to an argument by John McTaggart.
Time.
That's right. So, yeah, the prior logic is tense-based logic, which is why I prompted you with time. There was already a clue that pointed to time. So, like, the center for the study now is so that's why you got the promise. Here's that time reference. Okay, your bonus. For many years, this author was the chief speechwriter for William Brandt for 10 points each. He is a German author whose Danzig trilogy begins with his novel about Grass was a member of this informal post-World War II German Literary Association, which included writers like Ingeborg Bachmann and Franke and Paul Celan. Took its name from the year it was founded. What do you got?
Group of 63.
Group 47. Another participant in Group 47 was this Polish Jew who evaded Nazis during World War II by hiding outside Warsaw in the cellar. He hosted the TV show Literary Quartet from 1988 to 2002, and as such an influential literary critic in Germany, they is frequently called Germany's Pope of Literature. Impress me. Right, Kravinsky. You receive 10 points. Okay, here's where we come to the repeat. First finding question. Okay. This is toss-up 15. Here we go. A 2010 task force created by President Obama to address this issue included former Republican Senate Leader Bill Frist and New York Mayor Cory Booker as honorary vice chairs. The Republican Governor Phil Bryant of Mississippi recently signed a controversial law banning municipalities from making regulations to address this issue. Last month, a study concluded that, contrary to previous thought, breastfeeding does not reduce a child's risk of developing this condition. The Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston recently sparked controversy because it received a $1.5 million federal grant to study why this condition was common in lesbians. Milton Tingling is a judge who recently struck down one law designed to combat this condition. That law set a cap of 16 ounces and was promoted by Michael Bloomberg. For 10 points in this condition.
Obesity?
The bonus for you is this. In one story about this figure, he ventures to the rising and the setting places of the sun, in the former of which he erects a wall of iron and copper to pen Gog and Magog. For 10 points each, in this first